everyone. My name is Mariam Siddiqui. I am a teacher, an aspiring writer, and an artist, and I'm very happy to share my Be Kind story with all of you. I feel like in this very politically toxic environment, as Brad had stated, it's imperative that we share stories of kindness that connect us back to what it means to preserve our human element. Because we're so consumed in our own lives, we're so consumed in our technologically infused worlds that we tend to forget what it means to actually be people, to be human beings with emotions, with this desire to connect with others through our stories. Even just to give a simple example, the other day I was with my family and we were driving, and I just looked up at the sky and I saw the stars, and I was just thinking, when was the last time that I actually looked up to see the stars? Even though it's such a cliche thing, it's such a normal thing to just look up, and yet I had to think about it. I had to deliberately, force myself to think about the last time that I actually looked up and I reflected on the beauty of the sky. So then that made me think even further that if something so quote-unquote mundane or something so cliche as looking at the sky has become so foreign to us, how about the culture of storytelling? How about the culture of giving, of preserving the human element, of maintaining that human compassion that is so intrinsically a part of us, and yet it has become numb because of technology, because of the unrest, the disillusion that oftentimes we feel based off the political environment, based off the unrest that we see all around the world. Whatever the case is, we need to consciously understand what it means to become kind, and to become consciously kind, to become people who manifest kindness within us and see kindness in other people. Because honestly, it just takes this art of storytelling with this passion of kindness that will allow us to slowly change our environment and our worldview around us. Specifically, I would like to share a story that I had undergone from my trip to Turkey this past year. And the reason why I'm sharing this story in particular out of the other kindness stories that I could have very well shared is because people of the Middle East, people of different cultures, people from different countries often face a very negative reputation. And we, out of our limited perception, tend to dehumanize these human beings. We tend to see them just with the political unrest that is attached to their name, forgetting that these are actually human beings with a beating heart, and they have so much to teach us. And so I think that it's really important for us to go out of our comfort zones, to meet people from different cultures, from different ideologies, from different religions, from different races, and to share this story of what it means to be a human being through small ways, just so that we can break the barriers within our own selves. So from my trip to Turkey, there were many different stories that I could have shared, but this is one that I would like to particularly share with you, just because I feel like it had changed my life. And I know that is such a cliche thing to say, but it actually did. And it just made me realize what we're missing out on when we shut ourselves away from people, we shut ourselves away from experiences where we have so many opportunities to grow. So during my trip that I had gone with my brother this past year, with my brother and a group of friends, we were exposed to a lot of the culture. We were exposed to the people. We were learning bits and pieces of Turkish here and there. And instantly, throughout every interaction that we had come across, even, the most mundane of interactions, it was that these people knew what it means to be innocent in a very not so innocent environment, in a very, not so innocent world. They've preserved their innocence, they've preserved their human element, they've preserved this language of giving. And I felt like it was a very familial culture where you go there and people feel like they're a part of you. And I worded that in correctly, where the people feel like they're a part of you. Even if you yourself feel like an outsider, the people look at you and think that you are theirs. that you are their responsibility. So, I mean, an example was, there was a car that was parked on the wrong side of the road, and the tow truck had come. But, they got out of their car, and they're asking people for a good 10 minutes, asking everybody around them, whose car is this? Are they in any trouble? Is there something that happened that made them park like this? So the system is built on this element of what is the story behind this, rather than, okay, this is part of the system, wrap it up, whatever consequences kind of come through with this, that's their problem. It's a very familial environment where everybody feels like they're responsible for each other. There's dogs and cats that are roaming the streets, and none of them are hungry. They're all fed. And another situation is, in ancient Turkey, the Ottomans had actually made it a part of the government funds, where there was a part of the funds that had went specifically to the dogs and cats of the streets of Turkey. Secondly, a fund went to the children of Turkey who, there was this culture of, the mothers would make dishes for neighbors, and they would send their children to give these dishes to their neighbors. And so there was a specific fund allocated to the children who had broken the dish on the way to the neighbor's house. So there was a fund, so if a police officer or somebody in charge had seen that a child had broken a dish, then it was their responsibility to purchase a new dish and purchase new food and everything, so that the child does not get in trouble. So, just small moments like this, and you see that, even though that was ancient Turkey, you see that a lot of that culture is still maintained in the people. So there was this one particular story that I would like to share with you. And it was a story of a 5-year-old girl, a little flower named Fatima Zahra. And she changed my life. She was standing by the bazaar. So my brother and I and our group, we were walking out of the bazaar, and we see this little girl standing there timidly asking for some change, spare change, anything to get her by. And she was asking in such a way that struck me. She wasn't asking in a way that was greedy or full of any ill intention. She was simply asking, and she had this dignity to her. As a 5-year-old girl, she had dignity. And so my brother and I, whenever we had leftover food from restaurants, especially bread, we would keep it in a bag to give to those that were needy. So I had given her a piece of bread, and she accepted it, and she said thank you, and she was smiling so wide. And, we started to talk to her and ask her, how she is, just asking her just small talk. And upon that, I had given her a second piece of bread, and she looked at me and she wouldn't accept it. She said, La, no, you eat it. You eat it. That's what she kept saying in Arabic. You eat it. You eat it. And that moment, I was so taken aback that this little girl, who knew the horrors that she faced on a daily basis? Who knew the last time that she had eaten was? Who knew when that was? And yet, she wouldn't accept a second piece of bread because she wanted me to eat it. So that, in and of itself, that struck me as something very interesting. No matter how many times I tried to convince her, she wouldn't take it. And then she looked at my brother and she saw his side pocket, and she said, don't put your wallet there, put it higher up so people don't steal it. She's 5 years old, and yet she's already talking to us in this language of giving that was so intrinsically a part of these people. So she was walking with us and talking with us, and she was talking with us stories of her childhood, full of laughter, full of glee, and she's telling us what she likes to do, and she's telling us that she's a Syrian refugee. She's one of 7 brothers and sisters, and we were asking about her family, and she said, her mom's at home, but she said Baba Mayyit. Her father had passed away in the Syrian crisis. And she said her eldest brother also passed away, and yet, that sadness washed away, and she was continuing on taking selfies from my brother's phone and just laughing and joking. She's full of dignity, this little girl. She knew that you had to hold on to these stories of love, of laughter, to preserve your own sanity. As a 5-year-old girl, this is the reality that she had created for herself. This is the reality of the children that they create for themselves, to hold on to these small seemingly insignificant stories of laughter and love and kindness to preserve their sanity, because you get wallowed away in depression and you don't know when to stop, especially for these children. So we gave her some money, and she reacted how we thought anybody would react upon receiving money. She squealed and laughed, and she ran to the other side of the street. So we thought that she had gone, and so we continued walking on our way. But a few minutes later, she came back with a handful of pastries. And so she used the money that somebody had given her to buy pastries for all of us. And again, she wouldn't take no for an answer. She deliberately was stuffing them in our purses, was prying open our hands and putting these pastries in our hands. She wouldn't take no for an answer. And then she noticed that somebody in our group didn't have a pastry, so she started to break hers in half so that this person could have something to eat. Selflessness, the children of Turkey, the children of Turkey, the children of Turkey, their childhood is built on the language of giving. And so she took my brother's hand and she said, "Ta'al huna, ta'al huna, ammu." She wanted him to come, and she wanted all of us to come to play with her and to meet her brothers and sisters at home. And we couldn't at that time because we had to follow her group, but somebody had given her some money to distract her, and she took that money finally upon much insistence. And she took that money, and we tried to console her, and we made lots of prayers for her, and we kissed her forehead, we gave her lots of hugs. And later on, somebody had said that they had seen that same little girl in the bazaar holding a basket of fruit, selling that fruit. So she used the money that somebody had given her to become a little entrepreneur. Somebody in our group said something so profound. They said, "Give this girl $100 and she'll teach us how to save the world." So this is what it means for these children. Their language, everything that they embody is built on this language of giving. So much so that upon hearing this story, a lot of people in our group, men, 40, 45-year-old men, were crying in tears. Because oftentimes I feel like we need this reset button. We need stories like this. We need children like this. We need people like this to help us realize what it means to be kind in a world where we're so infused within ourselves. She taught us what it means to give selflessly, even to those that are strangers. I hope that God protects this flower and allows her to blossom and grants her numerous opportunities. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Have a nice day.